Come one, come all, as Captain Subpar counts down all the hot rockin' Power Ranger seasons for you. This is part 3 of my countdown of all the Power Ranger seasons from worst to best. We've gone through 4 seasons so far. We've gone through all the nonsense that was the Neo Saban pre-Dino Charge, of course, pre-Dino Charge. And we've gone through some of the Kalish era crap. I'm sorry. I was looking for a more colorful phrasing, but let's just call a spade a spade. Crap. There's still more to come. But we have gone through 20, 19, 18, 17. We are up to number 16 on the list. 16 for me has got to be Power Rangers Wild Force. Yes. We are finally going old school into the original Saban era. Wild Force, number 16 for me. And I'm going to preface this with a statement that I think encapsulates my feelings for Wild Force as a whole. I was a diehard Power Ranger fan from day one. I was a diehard Power Rangers fan even at the point where I was in geometry class one day and we had to make a graph. And we had to use colored pencils to make a graph. And I grabbed the red, the blue, the yellow, the green, the pink colored pencils to make my graph. And people actually noticed that those were Power Ranger colors and they made fun of me. Because, you know, it was 8th grade? And yeah, that was traumatizing, but that also is a good indicator of how dyed in the wool I was for PR. I mean, come on, I've been doing a friggin' podcast for a decade now. I'm almost 32 years old and I'm still talking about Power Rangers to you people out there. But I say all this as a preface because Power Rangers Wild Force was the season that made me momentarily, only momentarily, because I was back in with Ninja Storm, but momentarily quit Power Rangers altogether. I was done. It was my senior year of high school. I watched the first couple episodes, and I was like, this is so bad. And mind you, I wasn't a huge fan of Time Force, spoiler there, as much as everybody else was. But it wasn't awful. It wasn't, bad by any stretch of the imagination. And so I get to Wild Force, and it's just so actively bad that I'm like, I'm done. I have had enough of this fandom. I am too old for Power Rangers. I'm out. Sucks to say, but yes, there was a time when I was 100% out. Wild Force, and this is hard to say because we've talked about this before, and if anybody has listened to the interview that NPS did with Allison Sullivan, Kipperman, whatever you want to say, she said that the Wild Force cast, and they weren't the first by any stretch of the imagination, but they were told multiple times, whatever acting you're doing right now, dumb it down. Make it simpler and worse because that's what children want. And she didn't do that, and it shows because Taylor is the best character in Wild Force by a friggin' mile. But it also tells you just how bad the show truly was if apparently most of the cast took that advice. And I don't want to sit here and I don't want to bash the cast as a whole because I like to talk about the characters more than the people behind it because I feel like that's just mean. It's not fair. And if they're told to do something bad and then it ends up bad, why is it up to me to tell them that they're bad? But Wild Force was just so hammy and overacted, which is disappointing because, say what you will about Time Force, but the cast really seemed to give as much to those characters as they could. They tried to ground them and make them believable. And then you flip over to Wild Force and you have Danny and Max, who are literally adults acting like children, just broing on each other all the time going, never give up. Come on, guys, let's go. And then you've got, we have, oh my gosh, I'm losing names. Alyssa, who just has these most generic, I'm the do-good girl, and you've got Jungle Boy, who just, over the top, you have no heart. Crap like that? I am sorry, but Power Rangers, over the decade that it had been around before that, it had slowly evolved. The characters, they always had their silly moments, but they had gotten more realistic, We had heroes that were traveling through time. We had heroes discovering a new world. We had military-based heroes that were just, you know, for the city, just buy the books, this really cool aqua base, all this neat stuff in the recent years. And then you come back to just this generic do-gooders, and that was also the season where we started the whole like color coordinated like outfits that they wore all the time when they weren't doing ranger stuff. Like, I'm sorry, you're supposed to have secret identities, right? And you have a big red jacket on that says Blazing Lion or Noble Tiger. And surprise, surprise, when the Rangers morph, the Red Ranger says Blazing Lion and the White Ranger says Noble Tiger. Like, do you understand the concept of secret identities? Is that too hard to grasp? Like what's to get it in there? And the theme itself, you know, uninspired, generic animal theme. I get the whole, ooh, Master Org is so scary because he actually kills Cole's parents. Ooh. But they treated that whole subject with such kid gloves and so nonchalantly that it just lacked any sort of gravity behind it. And let's not even talk about friggin' Merrick, who's just, I mean, dude, really, the little soul patch thing doesn't work for Tommy, doesn't work for you. Stop it. It's gross. I think the biggest problem with Wild Force was it was one of those seasons where they started the whole trend of just copy the Sentai for the most part. And the thing is if the Sentai is not very good to begin with, which Gal Ranger was not, then what you come up with is going to just come off very flat and very bland. You know, Time Ranger was good. Go-Go 5 was good. And those were the two seasons where they really started that trend. So the actual translation ends up being a pretty solid basis for a season. If you don't have that basis and you're going to follow that formula, then, son, no. I mean, I know the person in charge at that time really did have that mentality of, he was a Sentai fanboy. So his mindset was, well, if I love the Sentai, so if I love the Sentai, then if I just give them the Sentai with American actors, then they're going to love it too. Doesn't work that way. That's why, and I've said this all the time, and I know people don't like this, but hardcore fans are not necessarily the best people to put in charge of the actual product they're a fan of, because they tend to be very myopic, and they assume that everybody has the same appreciation that they do, which allows for forgiveness, and it also leads to, you should know this stuff because I know this stuff. You know, things like that. I like the idea of having somebody who's a fan working on the project, but you also have to have people in there for checks and balances. You have to have somebody there who might not be as big of a fan, or who might have more of a business mindset, or just a general writer's mindset, to sit in there and edit your material. To say, okay, you've got some good stuff to work with here, but you also have to think broader. Or you also have to think for people that might not be as initiated as you. And Wild Force was one of those seasons where they just didn't have that. And I think the reason why Wild Force also gets rated highly for some people, at least a little higher than I might rank it, is the team-ups. Wild Force is one of those seasons, there's a couple out there where the team-ups carry the day. Like, don't get me wrong, Reinforcements from the Future is a fine two-parter. I don't think it's the best team-up, I think it's a pretty good one. And I mean, I love the fact that the Time Force team just rags on the Wild Force team, because realistically, that's what you should be doing. Because comparatively, garbage. But I think it's just okay. Like, I don't think it addresses a lot of the situations it was supposed to address. I don't think it really gave us any closure to Jen and Wes like people thought it would. I think it was very quick. I think they started something really cool with Taylor and Eric, but didn't carry it where they should. The whole mute org thing, and I mean, come on, you turn Rancic normal? Like, I get the fact that you redeemed the character, you somewhat earned it, but to just then flat out turn his appearance, like to give him that much restitution, it feels really forced and just not earned. I'm sorry, just not earned at all. And you end this amazing team up with some friggin' field day event, like, oh, here we go. Is Trip gonna carry the egg and the spoon, or is, you know, Lucas and Max gonna have a 3-legged race? What is this? What is this crap? Absolute crap. That's what it was. And then you get to Forever Red. Forever Red, to me, is the most overrated team-up of all time. So much of it, it's just so quick. And I understand they want it to be longer. I get that. But I can only judge what I actually saw on screen. And that is Serpenteria. Serpenteria. For those of you who out there who know, that's why I said Serpenteria for a reason. Serpentera, who they shrank his size. They literally gave Cole a MacGuffin like an episode or two before to defeat Serpentera. Fancy that. You have this giant, amazing machine that can destroy the world, and every time it hasn't destroyed the world is because of some convenient plot device where it runs out of energy. And yet a bicycle can destroy it, and not only can a bicycle destroy it, but the rider's fine too. He's just cool. He just pops out, I'm here. You know, Leo wasn't even there, you know, outside of, you know, a couple shots there where they had to throw him in at the last second because he's too busy being a lawyer man. Orico barely exists whatsoever. So many of the Rangers don't even really get moments. It's just a generic cog fight. I mean, you throw in a bunch of Beetleborgs. Again, horses on the moon. Yes, horses on the moon. Because the whole concept is that they were trying to say that some dumb fanficky Zeo thing, Scorpion Rain, for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, Google Scorpion Rain if you want to see some nonsense. The whole concept of Forever Red was this dumb fanficky thing that was a joke on the fandom actually exist. So that's why Serpentera is on the moon. That's why we're digging it up. Like, that's why the whole Machine Empire actually had a great fall that we never really saw in the show, besides the Zordon wave. Like, there was some stuff in between there that supposedly happened in fanfic world. It's just, like, if you get 10 Rangers together, you have to give 10 Rangers moments. And there are a few moments there. Like, I like the whole Bulk and Skull stuff. I think that's fine. I love the fact that yeah, okay, whatever. Bulk somehow got back to Earth after being on Terra Venture. Well, pretend that's the thing. But it showed that they had gotten somewhere. And that's, again, why I don't like Bulk and Samurai. Because I'm like, he got somewhere and then you just crap on him. Like, somehow they own a friggin' juice place at the beach. And Bulk ends up in destitution while Skull is a millionaire. Like, what? Like, A, how would that happen? And B, why would Skull, like, allow Bulk to fall as far as he does? Like, it just makes Skull look like a jagoff. I don't know. Anyway, I'm going on a rant about Samurai again. But ultimately, for me, Wild Force was just a very bland season that had some intelligence-insulting characters, with at least the way they were portrayed on TV, again, not against the actors, that I felt was just a massive step backwards for the franchise. I thought that they were going down a hill, and I wasn't surprised that they ended up going to Disney. And yes, I know Wild Force is technically the transition season, where you might be able to say it's the first Disney season, but everybody considers it the last Saban season, so shut up, whatever. But yeah, so that's why it falls there for me. Number 16. Number 15. Jungle Fury! Let's go! Awful theme song, by the way. Really bad. Also, Wild Force, not a great theme song. Not the worst theme song, just kind of there. Whatever. Jungle Fury, bad theme song. Very bad. Jungle Fury is the last of the trinity of awful, very awful Kalish seasons. We've already covered the Overdrive and the Mystic Force. On to Jungle Fury. Best of the three. Still bad. Jungle Fury is one of those seasons that had a lot going on behind the scenes. It happened during the writer's strike, so there was scab writing, so to be. And it was a season that didn't really seem like it knew what it wanted to do. The biggest example of that is the villain, Jared Daishi. Go away! They're here to save the... No. Okay, anyway. But from episode to episode, it was hard to tell if the villain was Jared, if the villain was this Daishi spirit, if it was Jared being controlled by the Daishi spirit. Like, they didn't seem to understand what they wanted to do, and it felt like the more evil he was being in any given episode, the more they would say it's the spirit. Because they didn't want to say, okay, we have this human character that looks like he could be a ranger, to be honest, and he's going to be just this awful, awful thing because we have to redeem him. That's the whole thing, is with the Power Rangers, is a lot of times they feel like they need to redeem the characters. And because of that, it was hard to get, like, a real bead on who he was. And should I be cheering for him to break free? Is he just, like, just a bad person? I mean, come on, even in the premiere before this spirit gets him, he's a jerk. He's an absolute jerk, like, hardcore. And it seems like he's always been that way. So even if he can be redeemed, like, I don't know, like, so you're going to say that this spirit controls him and somehow when it goes away, we're going to forget the fact that he started out as an awful person? Is that what it is? Like, I don't get it. And Casey was not a very good Red Ranger. I got nothing against Jason Smith. I actually think his episode of Super Mega Force was pretty good. But when you get a character, especially like Dominic, comes in late. Like, Dominic was one of those characters that I felt like should have been the Red Ranger. I think that he was funny. I think that he had moments of seriousness. I think he could have pulled off that role. Even RJ, the mentor, very fun character, fantastic actor. Like, actually, RJ and Dominic, those actors have done a lot of really cool stuff since then. And, like, they're both such stronger male characters that you feel like, why are they not in charge? Like, fully in charge. Instead, you have this character who is the typical, oh, I'm the weakest of the bunch, but somehow I'm going to learn to be the strongest because it's my inherent ability, because I'm the Red Ranger. I don't feel like he ever does that. I think there's so many times where Casey makes mistakes or doesn't know what's going on, and he gets these Zen lessons from RJ, dude. Zen lessons. And he still either just doesn't get it, pushes it to the side, or he learns the lesson, and then the next episode it feels like he never learned that lesson in the first place. Like, Casey is a whiner. Episode 1, he is a whiner. Episode, whatever the last one is, 32? 32, maybe? He's still a whiner. Like, I don't feel like Casey ever evolves. And if your Red Ranger is that, like, patently weak, it's hard to carry a season. Lily's an okay Yellow Ranger. I think Theo's actually a pretty fun character. I also enjoyed the fact that Theo and Lily ended up with a romance at the end. Probably took a little too long to get there. But it was nice to see that the Rangers get together and you don't automatically just throw the Red Ranger with the girl. You know, that was nice. I enjoyed that. Fran is a very fun character, actually. I was surprised when I first learned that she was actually a villain in an episode of SPD, because in that episode she's like a raging biatch. And then she's just a fun, like, goofy character in Jungle Fury. And she actually learns their identities, which is good. It's one of the biggest faults, I would say, of like a Ninja Storm, where they had a really strong female supporting character that just never finds out the truth, which is kind of lacking to me. But Jungle Fury is ultimately one of those seasons that had some decent ideas. I think it had some fantastic standalone episodes, but the overall story isn't really there. It's very herky-jerky, you know, helter-skelter, whatever you want to say, whatever little rhymey phrase you want to go with, but it doesn't have a lot of direction. And that's not good, because you look at Geki Ranger, which, the source material, which again is one of my absolute favorite Super Sentai seasons, has a very Dragon Ball Z-esque vibe to it. And it has a very clear story with very clear arcs that go throughout the entire series that really earns all of its moments. So if you're going to adapt that, you're going to stick fairly close to that story, then, you know, you're going to have to earn those moments. And you're also going to have to be very focused on the Rangers growing as characters. That's the thing, is with the whole martial arts theme, is the Rangers are constantly growing, learning lessons, building on what they had before, and you see these this clear line of demarcation for them getting stronger, right? So when you have that built into your very theme, you know, you have all these episodes where these Rangers literally find a new master and train with them and become better, then you're going to have to always illustrate that. So I can say, like, the Lily I see in episode 10 is better than the one I saw in 1, and she's better in 20, and she's better in 30. Like, I can actually see every little thing. And this show doesn't really do that. I think it's very much just, this is how they earn their new weapons. You know, this is how they earn a new Zord, like any other season. It's just, the growth is just not there, which is probably the biggest problem for Jungle Fury. The whole original stuff, I think Jungle Fury is very unique in that respect, is that it had a lot of unique stuff. I've heard plenty of stories bandied about why they didn't use the Geki Ranger morphers. You know, they're still there because obviously they're attached to the suits, the black and orange little gauntlets. I think people said like the whole punching thing they thought was not good for kids, or maybe the knuckle cracking that they do. I don't know. The knuckle cracking sounds like bubbles popping, to be real, so I don't know why that would be a problem. But they gave them sunglass morphers, which were ridiculous. Very, very ridiculous. I get that they wanted to do something original. I don't fault them for that. I don't fault them for trying anything. But what they actually came up with was crap. The Spirit Rangers were okay. I would say okay. They weren't fantastic. Some people love the designs of the Spirit Rangers. I think they were just kind of not necessary. You know, like I don't think they really added anything to the show. Just having the Masters there was fine. And it's odd because like people said the reason why they made the Spirit Rangers is because they wanted to not use the big furry costumes, but they show up in the finale. Like they use the furry costumes. So I don't know, just to sell more toys because they didn't have I mean, again, not because they didn't have enough Rangers either, because they still had Jared and Camille. They still had those toys too, so they had enough Ranger toys. I don't know. They were a fun, unique addition. Not really detrimental to the series as a whole. But, yeah, I think that's it for Jungle Fury. I think, again, just really bad Red Ranger. Characters just not learning their lessons, which, unfortunately, is a theme for Kalish seasons just in general. Rangers just not building upon what they've learned, and this is the season where it would have been the most paramount, so it's a big knock against it. So, that's where we are, folks. We are done with Neo Saban. We are done with the worst of the Disney stuff. So now we're getting down to the nitty gritty. Once we come back with 14 on down, I think we're going to get to the point where some of you might be starting to like, no, you just ranked my absolute favorite season. You already have it all the way down here still in the teens or something like that. I think that we might get to that point. But hey, I welcome the discussion. As always, please leave a comment. I'd love to hear what you think about these seasons. As always, like the video if you like it. Subscribe if you haven't, please. You know, I'm getting subscribers here and there. You know, they're trickling in. I'm really appreciating it. Share this video with your friends, please. I'd love to get more opinions just pouring in if you can. And I will have some more unboxing videos coming up soon, as I always do. And I will have another installment of this countdown probably within the week. Captain Subpar signing out. Jungle Fury!